Okay, so welcome. My name is Sunny Summers. I'm the Cannabis Policy Coordinator for the Oregon Department of Agriculture. And with me, I have Stephen Crowley with the Oregon Liquor and Cannabis Control Commission. And then also we have an industry member, Tyler Dooley. And so what we're going to do today is start out with a brief overview of the rule changes to hemp cannabinoids that go into effect July 1st of this year, 2022. And then we'll have a conversation with Tyler, any questions that he may have. And so we're intending that this presentation will be made available to others in the industry who may also share some of the same questions that Tyler has. And so with that, I'm going to turn it over to Stephen.
And yeah, just for kind of context of what we're talking about here, we're talking about hemp products in the general market outside of OLCC licensed marijuana retailers. And among hemp products, they kind of fall into three main categories, which are, you have your grain products, the products made from hemp seed, hemp seed oil, hemp hearts, those sorts of things. You have fiber products, things made from the stalks, textiles, clothing, paper, plastics, building materials, and then you have cannabinoid hemp products, which are defined in ODA and OLCC rules as hemp items. And so that's what these rules apply to, is hemp items in the general market. Just kind of an overview of with some things that are staying the same and some things that are changing. There are THC limits in hemp items. If a hemp item is going to be sold to a minor, somebody under 21 years of age, then it has to have test results that show that it has no more than 0.5 milligram of THC per package. If it's going to be sold, and that's been in effect since last July after House Bill 3000 passed. But the new limits that are taking effect this July 1st, 2022, there are going to be limits on the amount of THC in hemp items sold to adults also, and those are in OAR 845, 026, 400, Table 3, which we'll get to in a couple of slides here. Another big change is artificially derived cannabinoids in hemp items. So cannabinoids that are made starting with a cannabis starting material, but then derived semi-synthetically or synthetically from that cannabis starting material. Those products containing artificially derived cannabinoids are no longer going to be able to be sold to consumers starting in the general market starting July 1st of this year. And then for industrial hemp-derived vapor items, there are a couple of new requirements there, and those are basically hemp vape products, CBD vape products and that sort of thing. And the two big changes there are that they need to comply with OLCC testing requirements, including being tested at an OLCC licensed lab. The lab will enter the product when they receive the samples into metric and record the results there. And then the products also need to comply with OLCC's packaging and labeling requirements, which include either having an OLCC approved label or a valid generic label if the item's eligible for it. So just kind of restating an overview here, for any products, any hemp items sold in the general market, the seller needs to have a copy of the certificate of analysis of the test results for that product. Hemp items can't be sold to a minor if they have more than 0.5 milligram of THC, or the testing doesn't show that they contain less than that, or if it has any artificially derived cannabinoids. And then a hemp item can't be sold to any consumer, including adults 21 and over, if the item has more than 0.3% THC or more milligrams of THC than allowed under Table 3 that we'll get to in a couple of slides here, or if the item has any artificially derived cannabinoids, or if it's a vape product that doesn't have an OLCC approved label or valid generic label, or wasn't tested by an OLCC licensed lab. So yeah, the limits on sale to minors, the law defines adult use cannabis item, and that basically includes any hemp item that has more than 0.5 milligram of THC, or the test results don't show that it contains less than 0.5 milligram. This prohibition on sale applies at the retail level. So the person or business selling the item is responsible for making sure that they don't sell those items to minors. It doesn't apply at the manufacturer level because items with more than 0.5 milligram of THC can still be distributed and sold to adults. Manufacturers and distributors can help businesses stay in compliance with this requirement by identifying whether any of the products that they carry are adult use cannabis items, hemp items that can't be sold to minors. And manufacturers and distributors should be providing retailers with copies of the test results for any of the hemp items that they're selling. And then for THC limits for sale to adults, basically the items, in addition to the 0.3% THC limit that's been in effect for a while, starting July 1st, products can't exceed the amount of THC on on table 3, depending on the product type, by more than 10%, and they can't contain any artificially derived cannabinoids. So these limits apply to any industrial hemp products that contain cannabinoids, are intended for consumption or use, and are offered for sale or transfer to a consumer in Oregon or imported to Oregon for delivery to a consumer. Again, this doesn't apply to hemp grain and fiber products. And so this is the table that has the new limits. Hemp edibles and transdermal patches and any other cannabinoid hemp product that doesn't fit into one of these other categories are limited to no more than 2 milligrams of THC per serving and no more than 20 milligrams of THC per container, in addition to the 0.3% limit. Hemp topicals don't have any milligram limits, and same with smokable flower and hemp concentrates and extracts. All of those products are still just limited by that 0.3% limit. And then hemp tinctures, which are 4 fluid ounces or smaller, unsweetened tinctures, can have up to 100 milligrams of THC in the container, again, as long as they don't exceed that 0.3% limit.
Thank you, Stephen. Tyler, if you want to turn your camera and mic back on, now would be a great time to do the question piece.
Okay, perfect. Well, I'm sure like many other people reading this law, there's a lot of confusion, and unfortunately it's combined with OLCC rules also, which makes it extremely difficult to understand. And I know we talked before, Sonny, about obviously the rec market's a little upset, that we're able to sell cannabinoids to the general population in retail stores. And obviously, hemp derived isomers are not going to hold a candle there. I mean, there's no reason that we might as well just be rec to go sell in a dispensary. You know what I mean? So it's going to be difficult for us to compete there. So I see both sides of that.
And I would just jump in real quick neither Stephen nor I provided the background, but this is driven by legislation, House Bill 3000 during the 2021 legislative session. And the example that was being discussed in concern, especially around the minor piece, was when you have something like an edible, for example, caramel or a cookie or something, you can have a significant amount of CBD extract or hemp extract in that product and still meet that 0.3%. And in many situations, you could end up well above what we would allow in our recreational market in Oregon for a total amount of THC in that edible item that somebody would consume the entire item. They wouldn't be cutting it up like some of our rec market products are. Additionally, some of these artificially derived or semi-synthetic cannabinoids, while they may occur in the plant material at really low quantities, say for example, the Delta 8 products or the CBN products, those are actually being made by converting other cannabinoids found in that plant material through a process in the lab. And nobody has been able to show, any of the state agencies involved in hemp or marijuana, that they meet standards for safety. We're not sure what kind of additional byproducts might be being made in that process when they're converting, say, CBD to Delta 8. And so the state legislature directed OLCC to put these rules into place. So I understand the industry's frustration.
So is it an all-out ban on any hemp-derived isomer besides Delta 9? Is it just clarify, because reading it, I'll probably speak for every hemp grower in Oregon, maybe with the exception of a few, but it's just, I mean, it's really, really complicated and redundant to read this because, like just one example, I know I might go on a couple tangents here, so excuse me. But, if you look at table 3, and if you want to bring that back up, Stephen, like just from my standpoint, I'm reading here that it is legal to, right? We all know what a tincture is. It's a 1 ounce tincture, right? It's legal to have 100 milligrams of Delta 9 THC per that container. To me, that seems a lot more irresponsible than if I wanted to do a full spectrum CBD Delta 8 CBN gummy, right? That total cannabinoids are only 25% or 25 milligrams for the entire gummy, which my customers seem to love. And, they're not even reporting sensations of being high or it's unsafe. I mean, it's actually, it's working miracles for people. And I'm being honest. So to me, can we clarify that 100 milligrams of Delta 9 THC for that one tincture?
Yeah. So, I mean, I guess in terms of full spectrum products, I'm not aware of any full spectrum CBN or Delta 8 products. Those are compounds that from hemp people are creating in the lab. But, all the CBN manufacturers that I've talked to are taking CBD and isomerizing and oxidizing it to get to
I think they're, by full spectrum, almost like reintroducing minors to provide a desired effect, right? To have custom blends of cannabinoids, right? Each cannabinoid is supposed to have unique effects on the body or might affect people differently, and it's being able to hone in on that and reintroduce those minors to make it full spectrum, right? Rather than just ingesting like a crude gummy, for example.
Yeah. So just to clarify, when I say full spectrum, I'm referring to extracts that just preserve the cannabinoids in cannabis in their natural concentrations, and that's actually kind of the reason behind the THC limits here being what they are. It's kind of a balancing act, as Sunny mentioned. There are products on the market that are hemp derived, stay under that 0.3% THC limit, but have 200, 300, 400 milligrams in a pack of gummies or caramels. And this is kind of reining that in because that's, several times the amount of THC that you could have in a marijuana product in the adult use store. At the same time, because of full spectrum products, we didn't want to set the THC limits too low because, CBD to THC naturally occur kind of in proportion to one another. I think hemp typically has, 20 to 1, 25 to 1 ratios of CBD to THC. So allowing 100 milligrams of Delta 9 THC in the tincture is basically a way to allow 2,000, 2,500 milligram CBD full spectrum tinctures, because those full spectrum products will have about that amount of THC in them.
Okay. I mean, obviously, and I'll just speak for myself, but it just, to me, I read a lot of gray area still, and the gray area raises questions for me because my business, we're in several states. I'm not questioning the other states. I know California went through similar. I don't even know what you would call it, but similar action, right? I know what happened in California was kind of overruled in the Ninth District Court. Delta 8 and other isomers they're fully able to buy them, sell them, even at a retail level. And the DEA, like we've all talked about this as growers and producers of CBD products, right? But the DEA has doubled down and said it is 100% legal. They're not classifying it as a drug. So what do I?
So Tyler, there's federal law and there's state law, and
Correct.
states can be more restrictive. And so Oregon legislature chose to be more restrictive. So if you're adding Delta 8 or CBN into your gummies that is being made in a lab, that will no longer be allowed after the July 1st deadline.
Okay, so if they are full spectrum gummies, right? Let's say there are minors that are in the product. It's not an all-out ban on Delta 8 or CBN or CBG, right? I mean, it's not. You're not banning that. You're just saying that if it's artificially made in a lab, right?
Correct.
Then you can have it in the product. So as long, I've asked about like packaging requirements, right? I just need to know how I can properly, and I guess let me do a little background. Is that we're in over 400 stores, probably 500 stores in Oregon, and I want to make sure that I can go in, give every store owner the peace of mind. It's not, if I don't understand the laws, I know they won't understand the laws, right? And I just want to give them the peace of mind, knowing that what they're selling is legal and it is legit. They already have our COAs. There is no technical packaging requirements, right? That I'm aware of. So it's a shot in the dark for me to know what I need to have on the package. Obviously, we try to cover our bases. Like, obviously, these are hemp-derived products, 21 years and older, right? Because we don't want any concentration going to minors. I think that's fair, right? We want to put on there that it's a hemp product, so we put the square with a hemp leaf and an exclamation mark, letting know that it is a hemp product. And we try.
So I would let's stop and address that piece right there. If you're talking about the universal symbol that OLCC came up with for hemp products, you do not want to use that in the general marketplace. That is intended specifically for products being sold in the OLCC marketplace. If I see that in the wild, so to speak, I'm going to think that you took something out of the OLCC system that wasn't supposed to come out of the OLCC system and sell it in the general marketplace.
Well,
so I encourage folks not to use that symbol.
Okay.
So
unless you're in the OLCC system.
And the other category now is the hemp vape products on the general market.
Well, hold on. So I guess without guidelines to follow, right? We really don't. I mean, and when I say we, I mean every hemp grower or maybe wholesaler or retailer that has a product line, right? And there's thousands of companies in the U.S. that have these products, and it's like, so without guidelines specifically in Oregon, we don't know what to follow, right? But we do want we want to obviously show our customers, like without doubt, what the product is. Like, we definitely don't want it. We put on the labels, keep out of the reach of children. This product's not suitable for pregnant women, right? So we try to cover all bases. It's not FDA approved. There's a lot of things on there, but we want to be black and white the most we can there's not a single guideline. No one's came out and said you need to have this, this, and this. So we don't know. We're just trying to use our best judgment and be responsible.
And FDA really does have labeling requirements for products being sold in the general marketplace. Oregon, as you and I have discussed, has not adopted those. And so you are in a very gray area, unfortunately. The best recommendation that we can make to folks in your situation is to look at the FDA labeling requirements for similar products. So they would have labeling requirements, say, for a gummy that doesn't have any hemp in it, and looking at those requirements and matching them as best as you can, knowing that each state may have a different requirement. And then as Stephen said, the new rules do change labeling requirements for vape items, which I think you don't personally make, but for anybody else watching this later, the vape cartridges now do have to go through labeling requirements through the OLCC. But everything else, you are correct, is still in kind of that gray area, and the state of Oregon has not adopted specific requirements.
So the company doesn't make it, but we already buy it from a producer who can make it, right? In terms of reselling it, what requirements do we need to have for packaging?
I'm sorry, you're reselling vape cartridges?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, so for vape cartridges, if they only contain, hemp extracts and concentrates, no non-cannabis additives, then they can either use a generic label that has all of the information required in OLCC's labeling rules. So the manufacturer name, the test results for CBD and THC, the lab name that tested it, the date of the test, and or if you go to the OLCC website and click on packaging,
like batch numbers, right? Everything on there.
Right.
Okay.
And so so if you go to the OLCC website and click on the packaging and labeling link, there's more detail there. So products that don't have any non-cannabis additives can use a generic label that complies with those rules without any pre-approval from OLCC. But a generic label means no colors, no graphics, no logos, just the bare bones required information. Any non-generic label needs to be approved by OLCC. Businesses can go to our licensing portal, create a business account, and then that'll allow them to submit label applications through that portal. And then the other piece of it is any vape products that have non-cannabis additives, flavorings, diluents, that sort of thing. Those are not eligible for a generic label. They do need to have a pre-approved label, and there's additional requirements in our rules about information that needs to be submitted about those flavoring additives.
So there is a place we can send our hemp products, right? Those of us who make products here in Oregon.
Vape cartridges, only hemp vape cartridges.
Okay. So we can send those. There is somewhere we can send those for approval from you guys with and we will get certification or documentation that these are legit and able to be sold.
Get approval that label complies with our labeling requirements. And
awesome.
for any products sold on and after July 1st, any vape products need to have either a valid generic label if they're eligible or an OLCC approved label. If a product starting July 1st doesn't have a valid generic label or an OLCC approved label, that product can no longer be sold.
Okay, so for anyone listening or anything going forward, it's who have products here in Oregon that have that sell products in Oregon. There's CBD in every store, right? I mean, there's most stores I go. I mean, it's every single store, and it's even in restaurants. I mean, it's crazy. It's everywhere. So, have there been other people who have got permission or who have got approval already on their vape cartridges or anything like that?
Not that I'm aware of at this point. No, we haven't received any label submittals yet.
And then what, so for, and sorry, I'm just asking a lot of questions because this is, I mean, a lot of us are freaking out. There's, I need to give confidence to 400 stores without being told just F off, because, it's really good. That's really going to impact my business, and it's going to impact a lot of other people's businesses too. But, they need to outweigh if it's okay for them to sell CBD or just tell us to get lost and keep selling cigarettes and alcohol. You know what I mean? Because that's what makes them money now. I know there's not a 65% tobacco tax or vape tax or nicotine tax, right? Like the cigarette companies pay or the distributors pay, but really all the store owners I've talked to are at the point of just saying pretty much F off. Like, we don't want to do business anymore. It's not worth the risk. There's I've been notified that there's OLCC people going store to store, dropping off pretty much papers letting them know that they're ineligible. They can't sell hemp products anymore. Is how they're reading it, and that's
Yeah.
where it's that. This is a root of why I'm panicking, is because I just had a complete wedge in my business, and I can't go to 400 stores and give them confidence. Hopefully, this can help do that.
Yeah, so I'd say, I mean, it's a misreading to say that these rules say that businesses can't sell hemp products. Absolutely, businesses can continue to sell hemp products.
Is
These,
OLCC going store to store, dropping off those disclosures?
our inspectors have gone out to some stores, handed out a quick one-page summary of some of these changes.
Okay.
But I think it's important to note that these changes have very little impact on CBD products, the vast majority of CBD products. The THC limits here are fairly generous. This does impact the 100, 200 milligram THC products, and it does impact the semi-synthetic, the artificially derived. And I want to circle back. Yes, this isn't an outright ban on CBN and Delta 8 being at any concentration in a product, but it does prohibit this artificially derived CBN and Delta 8. It's manufactured synthetically from CBD, converting that into Delta 8 or CBN. Those are what's impacted, and I'm not aware of any Delta 8 products that are just extracting Delta 8 or CBN for that matter from the plant, because it occurs in such small concentration. So this does impact, I think, the majority of products that are using. It affects all products that are using.
So there's labs to my knowledge that are able to extract and obtain HHC without being synthetic, and they have proof of doing that. Would that be affected in this? If they have proof of how they can extract it naturally, and they're not doing, and it's not synthetic like what you guys are saying.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
it's not converted. It's not like taking acid, and it's not like that. If they can back that up, how do we get to that point to where we're able to show that some of these processes that have evolved, extraction and in these products? I mean, it's crazy what there's new products all the time, and there's new extraction methods all the time, and they're getting smart. Hold on, sorry, excuse me.
Yeah.
If they're able to show that, what would that do?
Yeah, if there are businesses that are extracting HHC directly from the plant, I definitely encourage them to reach out to olcc.hemp@oregon.gov. That's something we'd definitely be interested in. I know that there are trace amounts of HHC that have been reported in some parts of the plant, but that's another one that, as far as I am aware, my understanding is that the HHC products that are being sold currently are being made by isomerizing CBD and then reducing the THC.
And I'm not a lab guy. That's a whole different realm. Those guys are pretty smart, But as far as the product that I'm buying from these labs in Oregon, right, and people that are making some of our products in-house, I have a whole set of products. Me and Sonny have talked about it before, from different areas. But if I am buying products from a laboratory, is it their responsibility? Who's responsible for this? If it's synthetic or if it's not synthetic.
I mean, in terms of determining whether something's synthetic or not, your best bet is going to be to make sure that you have a good relationship with your manufacturer that you're working with, that you're getting that material from. Ultimately, though, the way that the law is structured, this limit on what can be sold to Oregon consumers just applies at that retail transaction level.
Okay.
Businesses can still manufacture artificially derived cannabinoids in Oregon and export those to other states where where artificially derived cannabinoids are allowed in products. So these restrictions just apply at that retail sale level, and that's just the way that the law was structured.
Okay. Would a sticker work for? I'm trying to think for vapes. does a sticker work for the actual vape cartridge itself? I know you were saying no colors and no. A lot of us in hemp, there's some of us that are in OLCC, right? And then there's majority of us that are not in OLCC in the marketplace for hemp, you know. So most of us won't know anything about OLCC rules and regulations for testing and all that stuff because it would be new for all of us. So for all of our products that are already out there in stores, how would a sticker suffice for being able to, if we know that our vape products are in fact legal? Would a sticker, do we get that from you guys? How would, just for the people listening, how are we able to rebrand our vape products if we're selling them in Oregon? I mean, obviously the easiest thing to do is, you know, for probably everyone listening, is just don't sell at a consumer level here in Oregon, or don't sell to stores to resell, right? Because like you guys said, we are in a gray area, but we're in a federal commodity area also where, you know, we are like, it's hard enough, you know what I mean? And we've been rocked as an industry. And for those that remain, which aren't, you know, there's not a lot of us left, you know, we're really hoping for something to go our way. And, you know, like other agricultural industries, which a lot of us are from, you know, big agricultural farming, a lot of us are engineers that have set up and have done, you know, engineering for water systems and stuff. A lot of my friends that farm hemp, you know, they're good, smart people, but a lot of them were in corn and other fields as well. You know, we don't have subsidies. We don't have a lot of things that most other industries get, right? Or sectors in the commodity field, right? So we need to, like, this is gonna literally shut off such a big arm of my business. Yeah, this is massive. It's just another setback for me. And there's other companies I know in Oregon, without naming names, that are going to be severely affected. But how do we? What I'm trying to find out specifically is, well, I'll let you answer the sticker part or the approved label part. But what I'm trying to find out specifically is, you know, some of the biggest CBD and Delta 8 and HHC companies that sell these products are based out of California. But yet California, if you read it on paper, looks like it has some of the strictest laws in the country. But in fact, they don't. It was overturned. What, should we just not sell in Oregon because we just don't know about these labeling requirements? I can't effectively, unless I get a seal like on these vape carts that says we're approved. That's the only thing these retailers are going to accept. And even then, they're still pretty scared, especially when they're getting those notices, right? Because they don't know the difference. They don't know the difference. That's just is what it is. And they shouldn't. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So in terms of stickers, I mean, if a vape product has a label that's really close to meeting the requirements and just needs, you know, one extra piece of information, that's theoretically possible to accomplish with a sticker. That stickering solution would need to be submitted to OLCC packaging and labeling for approval before that could be used. You know, same as any other approved label. For vape products that weren't designed with these specific labeling requirements in mind, realistically, stickering is probably not going to be a realistic solution. You know, it may just need a, you know, repackaging into a package that has an appropriate label. Yeah.
So I mean,
and OLCC, real quick, Tyler, OLCC will have a guide specific to those hemp vape cartridges available later next week. That'll be available on their website, and ODA can link to that as well for those manufacturers so that they can go through that process for future runs.
If you're already in so many stores, right? So after this meeting, and whoever listens to this, I have to go meet with a few big distributors that distribute 2 stores that do carry our product, right? There's not very much time to do that. A lot of these rules are starting to come out, Like the packet I have here, like the education bulletin and a lot of these things that I'm starting to now be able to get as you guys hone in. Like for me personally, like there's no time to go collect all of those products, make sure I have the seal. Does that make sense? I had no idea that we had to get a seal for our hemp vapes. I know we have a QR code that goes to lab testing. I know on our products they all say not for the sale of anyone under 21 years old, of age, right? We've taken precautions like that, but I guess this is just me trying to go on a fact-finding mission for this meeting I'm about to have after with the store owners, so I can hope that what happens in the store at a retail level, if there's unsold goods for something like that, it's our responsibility to go ahead and reimburse these stores. And when you're in 400 plus stores, big bucks, something that us in the hemp industry don't really have right now. You know what I mean? So
Right.
I need to know what I need to tell these stores that have vapes, that have full spectrum gummies, that have these things, and to do it effectively, right? To give them confidence.
Right. And in terms of the timing of these rules, the rule package that this is all a part of was adopted in December. The commission put out some education material in December and then had a July 1st effective date when these changes take effect to give the industry that 6 month runtime to get ready for these changes.
But the testing and all that, and a lot of these requirements.
So the testing has not changed. I would just like to be on record. The requirement for all of these products to meet the same testing requirements as the marijuana testing requirements has been in place since 2018. So that is not new. It's the not being able to sell Delta 8, CBN, or other synthetically derived cannabinoids in the general marketplace, and the packaging and labeling requirements for the vape, and then the restriction on milligrams of THC in the product. Those are the three pieces that have changed. The testing requirements is not new.
So, but all of those, any COA, to my knowledge, I always have CBN in our products. Obviously, when I have CBN in our flour.
Right, but it's naturally occurring versus synthetically derived. And that's the difference. We know that it occurs naturally in the plant at very low quantities. So if you take a COA from the plant or from an extract that came straight from the plant, it's going to have low amounts of Delta 8 or CBN likely. But if you take a gummy or a tincture where you've taken that synthetically derived, meaning they took CBD and converted it in the lab to Delta 8 and added it to that final product, those COAs are going to have really high Delta 8 or CBN concentrations in there. And it's going to be pretty clear it didn't come naturally from the ingredient that was extracted from the hemp plant.
If they, and again, I'm not a lab guy, so this could sound really dumb, but if they're getting isolate, right, and they're isolating these compounds without doing what you guys are saying, which is the concern, which is, I know we've all talked about CRC, we've all talked about a lot of things that in the industry that's they're banning, especially OLCC. Aren't you guys banning like CRC?
The CRC comes in basically in the same place. It comes down to whether you're creating artificially derived. There are plenty of CRC techniques where you're controlling the conditions and the temperatures.
Right.
Not.
So, if our gummies right now test under that federally legal amount of the of the THC, right? But it does contain Delta 8 and it does contain CBN and it contains a wide range of cannabinoids, right? And I'm under the assumption that it's natural. It's not They're not running it through they're not taking CBD distillate and then making it Delta 8 distillate, right?
So Tyler, you need to ask more questions of your supplier, and you need to have darn good documentation so that if one of our enforcement, because we have joint enforcement for these kind of products between OLCC and ODA, if we show up, you need to be able to document that it's an isolate from naturally occurring cannabinoids that were extracted from the plant material. If you can't document that and you have a high level of Delta 8 or CBN in that product, we are going to assume that you're using a semi-synthetic or a synthetic cannabinoid, one where they took a naturally occurring one and converted it in the lab to the one that you wanted to add to your gummy. So it's going to be upon your company to be able to document that and prove that it's a naturally occurring isolate. And if you can do that, then under the rules, it's allowed. But if you can't, the state is going to assume that it's derived from the lab in order to make high concentrations of the Delta 8 or CBN ingredient that you're putting in your gummy.
Okay. And let's see here. So for table 3, I'm trying to. So there's one that's not. So in OLCC, is Delta 8 or any of these other cannabinoids allowed in OLCC marketplace?
We have very similar restrictions in the OLCC marketplace, taking effect July 1st as the general marketplace. Most artificially derived cannabinoids, including Delta 8 THC, are not going to be permitted in the OLCC marketplace effective July 1st. But there are some exceptions. There's a path for non-intoxicating semi-synthetic cannabinoids to be in products in our marketplace if they were manufactured at a facility with an ODA food safety license, by an ODA licensed handler or an OLCC licensed processor, and the manufacturer has gone through the ordinary steps that any other business would need to go through to introduce a new dietary ingredient or food additive into a commercial product. So either a GRAS, generally recognized as safe determination, or submitting a new dietary ingredient notification to the FDA. There is within that a limited time carve out for the next 12 months from July of this year until through June of next year. CBN products, artificially derived CBN products, can continue to be sold without meeting that requirement yet. But that requirement will also come into place for CBN products July 2023.
And so with that, I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording now. I really appreciate your questions, Tyler. I think you're right. I think that a lot of folks are going to have similar questions to what you have. And we just want to make sure that folks are aware that Stephen and I are available to help with any questions as we move closer to and beyond that July 1st deadline. So I appreciate everybody's time, and we will be sending out more information, and we have a lot of the information that we talked about today available on our websites.
Did we